Recently, I've been reviewing previous installments of the Assassin's Creed franchise, and I've noticed that a lot of people like those reviews. And since the last poll that I've made, people as well chose one of the Assassin's Creed installments to review. So today I'm doing exactly that. What's up everyone and welcome to a new video. My name is Omar with Real Gamer Review, and today we are reviewing Assassin's Creed Syndicate, almost 6 years after the release. Before diving deeper, I would like to thank everyone who subscribed and helped the channel to reach the first 1000 subscribers. Thank you very much guys. And if you're watching my channel for the first time, a like and a subscribe would be hugely appreciated. So this time around, Ubisoft takes us back to the Victorian era London with two main characters, a male and female twin assassins, Jacob and Evie Fry. You don't get to choose between them, but instead you'll be switching between both during and outside the campaign missions. The game is played from a third-person perspective as always, and its world is navigated on foot or by carriage. The game introduces new traveling systems and refined combat and stealth mechanics compared to the previous installments. Bear in mind that this was the last installment that had the old original Assassin's Creed combat and stealth mechanics before moving into the totally new combat mechanics in the next installment, Assassin's Creed Origins, all the way to the very recent release of Assassin's Creed Valhalla. As I mentioned in my previous Assassin's Creed's reviews, I am actually a fan of those old mechanics. Don't get me wrong, I don't hate the new ones, but I just prefer the old mechanics. Also, I've made reviews for both Origins and Odyssey. They should show by now in the cards, and I'll link them in the description below. Feel free to check them out. Anyways, back to Syndicate. So, as I mentioned before, the story is set in Victorian era London and follows the twin assassins as they navigate the corridors of organized crime, trying to take back the city along with the assassins' help from the Templars' control. The game is an action-adventure stealth game. It features similar gameplay elements to the previous games in the series. Especially when it comes to the stealth part, it still has the elements like hiding between the crowds and moving between buildings' roofs by jumping or using special gadgets that you acquire during the campaign. Unlike the installments that came afterwards, where jumping between roofs is still available but you rarely do it, as the whole concept of gameplay diverted slightly away from it. Players complete quests, linear scenarios with set objectives to progress through the story. Outside of quests, you can freely roam the open world, consisting of 7 districts, where you can perform side missions, which were designed to reflect the fight for power in London. The player's main enemy is instead a Templar-controlled street gang called the Blighters. Finishing enough side missions in each district will eventually lead you into a big gang fight between your gang and a rival gang with a boss fight included. By finishing that, you will then free that district by overthrowing the other gang. There are various side missions like Templar Hunt, Gang Stronghold, Bounty Hunt, Child Liberation, and more. So they vary between hunting and assassinating one of the Templars, attacking a rival gang stronghold, Child Liberation, which has you clearing out several enemies from certain factories, then freeing the children who are being used as a workforce. There are a few more side missions, but there is another side mission, or it can be called side event, which are the fight clubs around the city. And it is pretty self-explanatory from the name. There are several fight clubs that you get to participate in for money and some other prizes, but they are pretty fun to play and worth mentioning. In keeping with a historical context that more closely resembles the modern day, the city guard of previous iterations is replaced by a Victorian-era police force, who will rarely attack you unless you commit a crime in their presence. The game, as usual with every installment, introduces famous historical figures like Graham Bell, Charles Darwin, and many more. This detail is present in almost every Assassin's Creed installment, but it is still a joy. There is something intriguing about meeting historical figures even if it's in a video game, and Ubisoft just knows how to integrate those figures in a fun way in every installment. The game has an upgrade system split into 3 parts: combat, stealth, and ecosystem. You gain points by finishing main and side missions, and you can use them to upgrade the skill accordingly. You can also purchase with points upgrades for your gang, as gang upgrades makes it a bit easier to finish the side missions and eventually overthrow the rival gang of the district. You will unlock as well a crafting skill where you will be able to craft gear, a few weapons, and some upgrades for your gear and weapons. Beside those two options, you can as well purchase new weapons, firearms, assassin gauntlets, capes, outfits, and even different colors for your outfits. You can of course purchase all of them with the in-game currency. This time as well, you don't use horses for transportation like most of the Assassin's Creed installments, but instead this time you use London's carriages. Most of them drive and handle the same, but they come in a few different shapes and types, and they are pretty fun to drive once you get the hang of it. So long story short, and to avoid any spoilers, gameplay and missions are pretty good despite some of the negative feedback that the game received at the time of the release, but I've enjoyed it a lot. The game as well featured 3 extra DLCs that contained extra story and missions under the names of The Dreadful Crimes, The Lost Maharaja, and Jack the Ripper. I never played those DLCs before, but if you are interested guys, leave a comment below and I'll make a separate video about them. Coming to the graphics and visuals part, as always with most Assassin's Creed installments, Ubisoft are pretty good when it comes to that part. Of course, don't expect the game to be top-notch when it comes to the visuals, but for an almost 6 years old game, it definitely still looks pretty good. I've played this game at the time of the release and started playing it again for the past few days, and I'm honestly still amazed exactly as the days of its release. If you didn't play this game before, you might find the scenery a bit unpleasant due to the Victorian era London the game is set in, but after playing it for a while, you will truly appreciate the work that Ubisoft developers have put in the visuals for this game. Till today, in a lot of areas in this game, I just stand on some of the rooftops to admire the visuals and how they portrayed Victorian era London with great sceneries. The buildings, the amazingly London famous sights, and the tons of boats going through the river, the roads, and textures. Everything that this game has to offer when it comes to visuals and graphics is just amazing for its time, and I would say it is pretty solid in 2021 and definitely doesn't look outdated. The footage you are seeing in this video is captured on PC, and I would recommend playing the game on it for the best experience. But still, it looks amazing as well on the consoles, but unfortunately it is not working properly on the PS5 if you play it with the backwards compatibility. I've tried it and it has a lot of visual issues happening while playing the game. So I would recommend, if you are going to play it on consoles, to stick with the PS4, Xbox One, and the Xbox Series. Ubisoft, as most of the Assassin's Creed installments, they are pretty good as well when it comes to portraying music that puts you in the right mood for the era that you are playing the game in. And I would say they did a good job as well with this installment. The audio part when it comes to the fighting mechanics, carriages, horses, and voice acting is pretty good. But for the music part, I would say it's a bit mediocre, as I felt that it's not that great, especially when comparing it to the previous installments. Unfortunately, I won't be able to put any music for you to listen to in this video for copyright reasons, but I will leave you with a few clips to check the audio effects and judge it yourselves.
Keep moving. Slow down now.
Maybe you'll change your attitude if I come over there.
Despite this game being released almost 6 years ago, and although it was slightly different compared to the previous installments that were released before it, but it was one of the last Assassin's Creed installments that kept the core essence and soul of the old Assassin's Creed games that we all loved and grew to be fans of. Don't get me wrong, I still love the newer installments of the franchise, but I always felt that they diverted away from how an Assassin's Creed game should be, and it is slowly turning to be a totally different game. So going back to Syndicate and playing it again in 2021, and after playing all of the Assassin's Creed installments that came afterwards, I really had a blast and I enjoyed every moment of this great game. And I truly remembered how an Assassin's Creed game should be. So if you didn't play this game for a long time or even skipped this part and you are in the market for a new discounted game, I would definitely recommend playing this one. Alright, time to wrap this up. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video or you learned something, then leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.